Okay, so now what's going on YouTube? So why is it the fact that there was 100 and some odd thousand votes that came in for Joe Biden, but not a single one was for Trump, which I find kind of weird. There were hundreds of thousands of votes that came in late that were all for Joe Biden, but not a single one for Trump. Pennsylvania didn't allow a lot of its people to vote until 3 days after the election, and then there was a bunch of votes from people who were dead, right? And I had heard something about there was a bunch of illegal votes, which is probably all those, but nonetheless, this isn't trying to, put down Joe Biden. This isn't trying to, I'm not sitting here trying to, put anybody down for voting for Joe Biden or causing a problem with anybody. Y'all know I voted for Trump, and if y'all voted for Trump, great. If you voted for Joe Biden, that's alright. I'm not putting you down for that, because you have the right to vote for whoever the fuck you want to vote for. That's the beauty of America. We have the right to vote for who we want, and there's other countries that you have the right to vote for whoever your president or whatever y'all call your president for your country or whatever, right? But why is it the fact that right after the election there just happens to be a company that just so happens to have 100 million vaccines for the coronavirus in the United States? It's kind of weird that nobody could find the vaccine for the coronavirus before the election, but like right after the election and right after the news media is claiming that Joe Biden's now the 46th president, there's 100 million vaccines for the coronavirus. Let me tell you something here. This isn't about who the president is. This video is talking about the fact that every 4 years here in the United States, there seems to be some type of fucking problem. Every time we have an election. Just like in 2016 when we had the election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, there was H1N1, otherwise known as the swine flu. Back in, I think, 2012, we had Ebola, right? And then 2008, we had some other bullshit problem going on. In 2004, we had some other problem. In 2000, we had a problem. It's kind of like, why is it every 4 years when we happen to have an election, there's some type of new fucking disease that we have to worry about that just happens to come up out of nowhere? Listen, this H1N1, the Ebola, and fucking coronavirus, and all these other fucking bullshit things didn't just pop up out of fucking nowhere right before an election, and they don't just happen to come out with a vaccine for it right after the election, right? Coronavirus has been around for a long time. Same with all these other diseases, have been around for fucking years. They don't just magically pop up out of nowhere, and they don't just magically start killing every person on this gosh damn planet out of nowhere. Especially when every 4 years when we have an election. There's something wrong there. It's fear-mongering, right? Like, I know this whole coronavirus has been the worst one so far that I've lived through, and I'm 29 years old right now. So, but when I was a kid, I know there was a bunch of other bullshit with other elections and stuff, but I was a kid. I didn't understand it. I didn't sit there watch the news. My grandparents, my dad, and family didn't tell me about anything about it because I was too young to understand, right? And that's why, like, on this year's ballot, one of the things that I read on there was to allow 17-year-old kids to allow them to vote. My opinion is 17-year-olds, their opinion matters, but they're not old enough to understand about politics as much as somebody who's 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, somebody who's been around a lot longer than them, right? Now, I'm not smarter than a 17-year-old, and I'm not claiming to be, right? Well, I might be smarter than a 17-year-old, but I'm not trying to put them down and say that they're stupid, because it was only 12 years ago when I was 17. Okay, I'm 29. I'm about to turn 30 in next year. Okay, but if you were to ask me political bullshit back when I was 17, 18 years old, I wouldn't know what a fucking thing to tell you, right? If you ask me something about politics today, I can kind of give you somewhat of an answer. I'm not that much smarter today than I was 10, 12 years ago. I'm just a little bit more knowledgeable on certain things. Like, I know I'm a conservative Republican. I know I wanted to vote for Donald Trump. I can understand some of the stuff that people are saying on both sides, whether they're Democrat or Republican. And I can understand it better now than I did when I was 12 years ago when I was 17. So, I don't know. It's just a bunch of bullshit. And, you know, I guarantee you in about 3 to 4 months, we're not going to hear a fucking word about the coronavirus. And if we do, it's not going to be as much as it has been throughout all of 2020 up to this point. So, and I guarantee you in 4 years, in 2024, when we have another election, there's going to be some other fucking bullshit disease that pops up out of nowhere, or some type of fucking world global disaster or pandemic or some bullshit, because it happens every 4 years. We all know it, we've all seen it, and we just gotta sit here and put up with the bullshit and try to live our lives the best we can. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section below. Love y'all, be safe, catch you guys on the flip side like always. Deuces.